Hey, how's it going? You can't answer that because I won't know if you say anything. But if you said something out loud to that question, that's awesome. It's my first day back at the desk. I just spent a week in on vacation. I went with my daughter and my sister and her family, and it was a nice little getaway. I haven't been able to pay for a vacation in years. You know, because I haven't been able to pay for a lot of stuff on my own for years, whether it was EI or just being in debt or whatever. All the money I earned for a couple years there just went to debt payment, or I knew that I couldn't afford my life anyways. So any money that I made, I was still borrowing, and I borrowed from my parents as well for a long time. So it's weird making money for a long time. And then I sold my condo and I actually had a little bit of cash. Well, I still do. I said had, but I still do. And what a crazy relief valve it was in some ways, because you don't get to anything without, mentally getting there first, or emotionally kind of, how they say you must become it first before you can actually have it or achieve it or receive it. So in some ways I wasn't like surprised because I was already ready for it, but you still have to accept the new operating mode, I guess, and that being that I didn't have to rely on others or my debt entirely to pay for something for myself. You know, I purchased clothes for myself and for my daughter for the first time in years and years, and there's like this. There's no like guilt. There's no heaviness of knowing that I'm spending somebody else's money, or I'm in debt, or whatever that is. There's a lot of freedom to that. There's a lot of fun. And so that's the track I apparently went down when I told you I was just away for a week. It was quite a meaningful trip in that regard, when you talk about the entrepreneurial sort of journey, and not the employee salaried saving up for a trip type of trip. And yeah, it was the same kind of reset, and I enjoyed the time away thoroughly. You know, as I've mentioned in other videos, I just moved and this is my new place. So it's resettling into a new lifestyle in many ways. So today is the first day I'm back on my desk and recording this video. And I thought I would do like this more behind the scenes type of thing and let you know where I'm at with the channel and mentally. And also, I listened to a really interesting podcast. It was Chris Williamson, that Modern Wisdom podcast, and he had, oh no, I have to check his name. He had a guest on who, started a YouTube channel and didn't get 1,000 subscribers until he had posted 1,100 videos. And he got obsessed with posting, and I learned a lot from that. About work ethic and consistency and volume. And I learned that, modern wisdom, even Chris Williamson, he didn't get 100,000 subscribers until he posted 600 episodes, I think he said. Really interesting. Jet Franzen. Jet Franzen was his guest. He posted the video 5 days ago. I haven't, hadn't heard of Jet before that. I still haven't seen his YouTube channel, and I plan to. I would love to. But why did I bring it up? Oh, I brought it up because on that they both acknowledged Jet in particular said he wished he had documented more of his early stage, the process, and what he was going through and what he was thinking. And I was thinking to myself, like, hey, like I can do that. I can capture my feelings and my thoughts more than I have so far, especially knowing that nobody's really watching. um, it makes it a lot easier, doesn't it, when no one's watching? But funnily enough, I have not, maybe not funnily enough, but I've never really addressed directly my financial situation and how I had borrowed from my parents and like lived off my parents for a couple of years. That's like shameful stuff, when you're not only in your 30s, but when you're a grown ass adult, when you've had a stable income and a job for years, when you are a first generation, immigrant, when you're South Asian, whatever you call, I'm of East Indian descent, the community of whatever how you call that community of various communities, it's shameful, you know, to not be financially stable, let alone, thriving if you have, especially if you have an engineering degree. I'm considered a moron and psychotic by many standards of, you know, society and whatever, not to go down the path too far. But yeah, I do make decisions oddly. I do paint outside the lines. I think outside the box. And that podcast episode was also very interesting because I learned about, I can't remember what it's called, but there's they were talking about, they had this conversation, this really interesting conversation about um when you can't do certain things, or you can't get certain things, achieve certain things, one of the responses is to convince yourself that it is no longer important to you, that it doesn't matter to you. It's kind of like a trauma response. It's a victim mentality, and it's a way to make an excuse. You recalibrate and you redefine success for yourself. It's no longer financial metrics. It's your definition of success or happiness or whatever it is. I was listening to it and I was like, shit, yeah, I totally did that. I have done that. And I can explain it. I can not, maybe not justify it, because you don't have to justify that. If you recalibrate your own definition of success and happiness and love and life and blah blah blah, but you don't have to explain that to anybody. You've just done it. You just do it. You just live life that way. So therefore, you don't have to justify it. So I wouldn't say I can justify it, but I would say I can articulate how I got to that point. I can scrutinize why. I mean, I don't know how to use the word scrutinize. I can articulate how I got to that point. I can communicate why I don't want to remain in that mentality. And I can outline for you how I intend to adjust that and, break my way out of it. Break my way out of it. Like, adjust, change it, reset myself, or update myself. I think that's kind of what this channel is really pointed at, is how do I explain that kind of stuff? Can I actually dig in within myself to be able to draw those lessons out? Will I be able to write that down? Can I actually articulate that, whether it's in words or in writing or in diagrams or whatever it is? I get overwhelmed at how to do that. And I have these strokes of genius all the time. Genius. And pardon my sinuses. Yeah, I'm getting a little sick, or I'm getting over some sickness here. But yeah, these ideas come to mind, and I've just started a Notion template thing, and I need to learn how to use Notion properly and better to help me like funnel through and organize these ideas to then start feeding them into these videos, because I told myself I would do a video a day and then two videos a day. Like, I want to get to 350 for sure by the end of the year, whether that's shorts or regular videos. And, you know, for a 2 minute shorts, like a YouTube short video, I don't know why I can't push that count much higher and be recording an average of like 2 to 3 videos a day. But I just get these mental blocks when I like open the camera, which I think is pretty normal for a lot of people. So that's the Notion thing. Like, I want to be able to organize and capture these ideas because I think it's valuable. I think it can communicate with a lot of people. I think especially men, but human beings in general. Just like, why do I think like this? Why did I start thinking like this? Why do I have this approach to this problem? Where did that come from? What can I do about it? And I think for a lot of us, especially like millennials, when I say us, we grew up in a world that just has shifted so much, just so misaligned with the foundations of what we learned, and the foundations of what we learned didn't honor the human being. Like, I've said this so many times ago, like, we've just evolved as a species to a point where it is just such a rapid shift now in the last 20 years and the next 20 years. Like, it is insane how fast we are readjusting to trying to appreciate ourselves as human beings and what we are as human beings. Like, we are now standing next to robots, and we've been trying to be like robots for so long. Like, I think it's just insane how how fast, in the context of evolution, it's hard for an individual who only lives like 100 years or 80 years or whatever it is. Like, it's also hard for you to contextualize, and what does it matter to you, and why does it matter to you, and what are you going to do about it, and does it really matter? And no, it's your children that it matters for, and that's why I care about this, not only because I have a child, but because I enjoy this stuff. I think it's fascinating, and I think I have something to offer, which you wouldn't have heard me say that like 2 years ago, that I believe I have something to offer. That in itself kind of says something about the evolution of my own emotional journey, which I intend to capture here. So yeah, I'll stop. I'll try to stop here because 12 minutes. I'm trying to keep these a little bit short, but that's a little bit more of the BTS, maybe, of the channel, and hey, an update on how I'm doing and where I've been for a week, and why I'm about to start recording bunches. Yeah. Thanks for watching.